In this lecture, I will focus on the evolution of cities in the Gangetic Valley that we often term as the era of second urbanization. My purpose is to make all learners acquainted with archaeological evidences of well-known historic cities that have been depicted in ancient Indian literature. Apart from that, you will learn about the evolution of Neolithic cultures in central India and far south in this lecture. Firstly, we will see a map of 6th century BC that depicts several important urban centers of India. Now we will discuss the archaeological evidences and cultural significance of the cities as well. First important city that comes to my mind is Hastinapur. This famed capital of the ancient dynasty of the Kurus, the famous dynasty described in epic Mahabharata, started as a small settlement in about 1800 BC. This settlement in the Mawana Tehsil of the Meerut district is now about 5 miles away from river Ganges. The literary references mention it as being located on the bank of the river Ganga. The earliest settlers seem to have used the ochre color pottery. The area of settlement was very small. The succeeding period is characterized by the use of painted grey ware pottery. This pottery is important because people living in this large number of settlement in the upper Gangetic Valley were using the painted grey ware. It is interesting to know that the bowls and plates used by modern Indians are similar in shape to the ones found in painted grey ware pottery. So, although weight determined by our ancestors almost 3000 years ago, the people of Hastinapur lived in the houses made with mud or mud bricks. They were unfamiliar with the use of iron. Many copper arrowheads, nail parers, antimony, rods have been found. To a modern day visitor, Hastinapur 1000 years ago would have looked like a small village of upper Gangetic plain. We will discuss another important city that is situated near Allahabad. The name of the city was Kaushambi. Kaushambi is the famed capital of the Vatsas, whose king Udyan is famous for his romances, and it is now a small settlement called Kosham. But in 6th century BC, it was a very large city. It had ramparts over 30 feet high. They were armed with bastions at regular intervals. After the original construction, rectangular towers of baked bricks were imposed upon bastions. The remains of a large palace have been discovered at Kaushambi. The most interesting find is that of the Ghositaram monastery. The Buddhist literature tells us that it was the favorite haunt of Buddha and his disciple Anand. Rajghat is at another city. Rajghat, the earliest settlement in the city of Varanasi, has been excavated by archaeologists. It is an extensive tableland rising about 6 feet above the surrounding ground level. It is located on the northeastern outskirts of modern Varanasi. The place was first settled by a group of agriculturists somewhere in the 9th to 8th century BC. By the 6th century BC, it had evolved into a settlement defended by a mud rampart measuring 20 meters at the base and 6 meters in height. It was protected by a moat on the western side where the city was not protected by the Ganga and Varuna streams. The defenses protected a space of 40 hectares, while another 100 hectares was outside the fortification walls. However, the magnificence of the fortification is not matched by the other finds. This might be related to the limited scale of excavation. The excavated evidence seemed to indicate that people were living in wattle and dove hutments. They used many iron tools supplemented by tools made of bone. Their luxury objects consisted of beads and bangles of terracotta, copper, glass, and semi-precious stones. The city of Rajghat supported the monastic community of Sarnath, where Buddha preached his first sermon called Dharma Chakra Pravartan. Another city is remarkably significant for all of us, Rajgir. The site of Rajgir or Rajgir is situated southeast of Patna. It was the largest of all the early historic cities. It was the capital of Magad until superseded by the great Patliputra in the 4th century BC. Rajgir is situated among beautiful hills all around that form a valley. It was enclosed by a high wall girding the hills, which proved an excellent natural defense. The walls extend up to a length of 40 kilometers. It is 5 meters broad at the base and reaches a height of 3 meters. The inner line of the mud rampart, extending over a length of 4.5 miles, represents the heart of the old Rajgir city. One interesting find of the inner fortification is the monastery of Jiva Kamravan. It consisted of 4 large elliptical halls within a large elliptical enclosure. This was the monastery which had been donated to Lord Buddha. It is believed to be one of the earliest preserved monastic complexes because of its design, shared facilities, and the finds of a coarse red pottery, which is believed to be earlier than the northern black polishware pottery. Another city which is considered as the most important city of its own era was Patliputra. Patliputra, the imperial capital of Ashoka and many other famous kings, emerged on the historical scene later than other famous historic cities described here. According to the literary sources, it was succeeded by Rajgir as the capital of the powerful Magadhan Empire in 4th century BC. Its magnificence has been described by Megasthenes, the famous Greek ambassador in the court of Mauryan king Chandragupta in 302 BC. Unfortunately, the ancient city could not be explored properly because of the modern city Patna that is rightly on the top of the early historic settlements of Patliputra. Archaeological explorations suggest that the fortification of the city might have closed 1350 hectares. Kapilvastu. Kapilvastu, the place of Gautam Buddha, has been identified only very recently. Earlier, it was believed to have been located in the Himalayan foothills of Nepal. Now it has been conclusively identified with the Ganwaria and Piparwa in the Basti district of Uttar Pradesh. The discovery of a monastic sealing of Kapilvastu at Piparwa has convincingly established the identity of Kapilvastu. The mound of the town site has accumulated ruins 21 feet in height. Its occupation went back to the period before the 6th century BC. The coming of the northern black polishware saw the use of burnt bricks here. Remains of many monasteries have been unearthed at this place by archaeologists. Mathura was one of the most important cities of ancient India. Apart from its association with Krishna, it has been associated with Buddhism and Jainism too. The sculptures of Mathura school of art are famous all over the world. Despite intermittent explorations spread over a century, Mathura remains one of the least explored sites and cities of ancient India. The reason is that most of the modern Mathura is built over the ancient city only. There are at least 9 separate mounds. Each of them has been a treasure hunter's delight. Mathura seems to have begun as an humble settlement in 8th century BC. By about 600 BC, it had grown into a city of massive proportions. It covered an area of about 360 hectares. It was fortified with a mud wall, which in turn seems to have been ringed by a moat. Many houses were made of baked bricks. The presence of soakage pits show some kind of planning for the disposal of waste. Our survey of some of the settlements of the Ganga Valley is by no means comprehensive. What it does indicate is that the period of the emergence of city was the same as that of Buddha and large kingdoms called Mahajanpadas. Most of these places remain unexcavated and unexplored. In the second part of this lecture, I am going to discuss the archaeology of central and peninsular India. That is very important in respect to understand the form of archaeological exploration and nature of archaeological exploration in entire India that reveals to us many interesting facts. Central India will be first discussed. The archaeology of central India, broadly comprising the area of Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra, represents a pattern different in many ways from the Ganga Valley. Central India has a prehistory of agriculture, which was generally unclear in the Ganga Valley. In their long history of development, the inhabitants of this region used many kinds of pottery. Some of them invented lotus-shaped pottery, which remains popular to this day. The farmers of central India used a whole range of tools made of stone. A few of their tools were made of copper also. They did not know the use of iron for a long time. The menu of central Indians 3005 years ago may appeal to you. So let us discuss what was the menu of central Indians 3500 years ago. The farmers grew crops like barley, wheat, rice, bajra, jowar, lentil, horse gram, grass pea, pea, black gram and green gram were also consuming jamun, behda, wild date, bear and marrow balan. The finds of bones, cattle, sheep, goat, dog, pig, etc. indicate the range of domesticated animals. The cut and chop marks on the bones of these animals indicate that they were slaughtered for food. The bones of wild animals like black buck, nilgai, barasingha, cheetal, buffalo and rhinoceros indicate that they supplemented their diet with wild animals too. We will understand the urban culture of central India. Let us discuss Ujjain. In the period around 1000 BC, iron tools were found in the places like Ujjain, Aran, Nagada, etc. The people also used weapons of iron in this region. The evolution of cities in this period was based on the discovery of iron. The premier city of this area in the historic period was Ujjain, located on the bank of river Sipra. It was surrounded by a very large rampart in 6th century BC. The rampart had a height of 15 meters, which enclosed an area of 190 hectares. Iron smelting and the manufacture of iron tools seems to have been one of the important activities of the craftsmen in the city. Houses were brick built. Some kind of planning is equally evident from the presence of metal, lead roads, brick tanks, wells and drains. According to one estimate, building the fort in Ujjain would have required manpower of 20,000 people. Organizing such a large labor force would have required a developed state apparatus. Since those who would build the rampart would require food and wages. If the king forced people to work, he would require an army to control such a large workforce. This is why the evidence of fortification is taken as a proof of the fact that a society based on coercion and concentration of wealth had come into being. This was also the period when evidences from Ujjain indicate that it had established active links with the Ganga Valley. This is proved by the presence of the northern black polisware. Friends, we have already discussed in detail about this precious pottery of the middle Ganga plain. The pottery came in use in the Ujjain area too in the 6th century BC. This is a clear case of the Ganga Valley influences coming down to this area. The early historic period, as documented in ancient Indian literature, shows that the area around Ujjain was called Avanti. Its powerful king Pradyot is believed to have conquered Kaushambi. All this indicates that central India had become part of the ambit of Gangetic civilization. Evidences for the presence of large township have been found in places like Nagda in the Ujjain district itself, located on the river Chambal. The uppermost part of a partially natural mound 90 feet high represents three periods. In the early half of the 4th millennium, the place was surrounded by a rampart. Maheswar, 70 miles south of Ujjain, is the famous Mahismati of the ancient Indian text. Located on the bank of Narmada, the historic mound rises to a height of 100 feet. Except for some exploratory excavations, this site still awaits the spade of a discerning, experienced and seasoned archaeologist. Learners, it is an opportunity for you to explore the site. Now we will discuss archaeology of South India, peninsular India. By the term South India, we refer to the states of Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Kerala. These areas were watered by some famous rivers: Godavari, Krishna, Tungabhadra, Penneru and Kaveri. Farming communities evolved in far south like North India. Farming communities emerged in this area in the 3rd millennium BC itself. In the post-Harappan period, evidences have been found for the presence of strong farming communities in South India too. Nagarjunikonda on the mouth of river Krishna, Peekli Hal, Brahmagiri, Sangankallu, Tekalkota, Hallur on the Tungabhadra and T. Narsipur at the confluence of Kaveri and Kapila show the presence of farmers from very early times. On the basis of parallels with central Indian pottery, the radiocarbon dates these settlements have been dated to 1800 to 1050 BC. It means that in between 1800 BC to 1050 BC, already sedentary agriculture had evolved in South India. What these farmers were doing, what they were eating, it is again an important subject for our discussion. Millets and pulses were the main cultivated crops of this region. Various kinds of millet, horse gram, green gram and black gram have been found in the remains. Hackanth, bean and barley too have been discovered in some of these sites. These farmers had domesticated cattle like buffalo, sheep, goat, pig and dog. In addition to the domesticated species, these settlements have also yielded the remains of wild game like porcupine, black-napped hare, nilgai, chinkara, black buck, sambar and cheetal. This would indicate that the villagers hunted and ate these animals. Potteries and tools in southern villages belonging to 3500 years ago form another interesting subject of archaeological research. People in these villages basically used various kinds of pottery. What is interesting is that they were using vessels with spouts. In the subsequent phases of evolution, they showed use of pottery similar to those of Central India. The range in the shapes and sizes of pots had increased. They were using bowls with lips, lugs and spouts, handles and hollow-footed bowls, jars, dishes on a stand and perforated vessels were also in use. What is interesting is the fact that the shapes of their pots virtually anticipate all the shapes of pots used by the modern days villages in South India. It brings to the fore the fact the enduring cultural tradition of South India from long prehistoric time to modern times. These villagers used a large number of tools made of stone. They used copper bangles and earrings. Now we will discuss the evolution of cities in South India. Friends, you have already discussed evolution of North Indian cities and Central Indian cities. So now it is the time to understand how cities evolved there. Although they started using iron tools earlier than Ganga Valley, cities emerged in south almost 4 to 5 centuries later. The core reason for the emergence of civilization in the south was the modern Tamil Nadu area. In the centuries preceding the Christian era, the Tamils composed their most beautiful poems. These are called the Sangam poems. In these poems, they refer to prosperous towns and cities. Unfortunately, the lack of proper exploration and excavation in this area leaves many gaps in our knowledge about the process of the emergence of urban centers in this area. Excavations have been conducted in places like Urayur, modern Trichinapalli in Tamil Nadu, Kaveri Pattanam, situated at the mouth of river Kaveri, and Korkai, situated on the bank of Tamraparni river near Chennai. Arikamedu is situated in Pondicherry. Amravati is 60 miles from the mouth of river Krishna. Nagarjunikonda is situated in Guntur district of Andhra Pradesh. These all urban centers seems to have emerged in the beginning of the Christian era. Amravati and Nagarjunikonda have yielded ruins of a large number of Buddhist monasteries. The magnificent bas-relief found on the stupas is perhaps the most brilliant exposition of the art of contemporary India. Excavations have also yielded the northern black polish ware. Thus, the finds from Nagarjunikonda and Amravati indicate that the influence from the Ganga Valley percolated down to this area in the centuries preceding the Christian era. Korkai, Urayur and Kaveripatnam are other important cities of South India. The ancient site of Urayur, the capital of the Cholas, is believed to be located within the city limits of modern Trichinapalli. The earliest occupation of the site dates back to 300 BC to 100 AD. It is marked by the use of black and red pottery. Along with this has been found the Roman pottery known as roulated and erytine wares. A few potsherds bear Tamil inscriptions in the Brahmi script of the early centuries of Christian era. Kaveripatnam was the seaport capital of the Cholas. It was located on the mouth of river Kaveri. Excavations have been shown the presence of massive big platforms built on natural sand and perhaps a wharf for tying the boats. A water reservoir made of an earthen bound with brick facade has also been discovered. Another structural complex found in the area is the remains of a Buddhist monastery. Korkai was the capital of the ancient dynasty of the Pandyas. It has been identified with a modern village on the discovery of innumerable pearl oysters in different levels indicate that the site was an important center of pearl fishery. Arikamedu is at another city. It is situated in vicinity of Pondicherry. It seems that this place functioned as a trading station for the Roman traders. Finds of amphora, a particular pottery used by Romans for exporting wine, has been found here. That is an important archaeological remains which actually substantiate the fact that Roman trading centers were established in this region. Many Roman coins have also been found in the excavations. The presence of Roman influence along with the influence from the Ganga valley in the form of Buddhism indicate the nature of urbanization in the south. The spread of Buddhism was related to the expansion of trade network as well. Let us sum up. This survey of the settlements in post-Harappan period is by no means comprehensive. Indian archaeology is still in its formative stage, so much remains undiscovered that any aspiring archaeologist can discover a settlement in his backyard. Virtually every corner and every settlement hides some secret of the past. India needs a very large number of amateur and professional archaeologists to discover its rich heritage. In this lecture, we have elaborately discussed archaeological evidences pertaining to life, culture and food habit in India, covering the vast geography of the country and its varied climatic conditions that played fundamental role in the evolution of regional cultures. Thank you very much.